Well, hello, 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 my friend. I am Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer. This show is Wellness by Design, all about empowering you in your health. So, I am talking today about books. I'm going to share with you my top 10 books for activating self-healing and why I'm recommending each one of these. Now, this could be totally different in a week from now, but this is kind of what I've chosen right now. And these books, they've all been really special to me, and I hope that they are special for you too. So, I have always been a reader. I came from a big reading family. We had books everywhere. And I was a little bit of a closet reader when I was younger because reading was almost like a little bit nerdy. So I didn't really tell people that I was a reader, but I loved to read. And fiction is what I mostly read. And then as I got older, I started reading more about self help. I don't know, I've just been like almost a self help junkie. And that was before RA came along. And then when RA came along, then I started reading books about that. And then as my journey changed, my reading changed. So 2016 was when it started, all the pain started. And so now it's 2022. Gosh, I can't believe 6 years later. What? Yeah, 6 years later. No, yeah, 6 years later. Wow, wow. So when I when I look back at my journey, I can now see the books I wish I had started with. Now, I've still got some of the very first books that I read. I've got here in this list, and I'm going to tell you about them. So, yeah, as I mentioned, came from a family of readers, and my father always said that you can learn anything from a book. And it's really true when you think about people have taken like their area of expertise and distilled it down into a book that you can read or listen to in a few hours, maybe anywhere from 3 to 12 hours. How amazing is that? So we've got these incredible knowledge resources available to us. And so why not take advantage of them? And you can buy the books, like I have bought all of these books, but you can also get these books from the library. And so it doesn't even have to cost you anything. Thank goodness we have libraries. And you can get a lot of these books as audiobooks as well. So even if you have trouble seeing, or you can't afford to buy the book, if you just want to sit quietly and rest your eyes, you can also do the audiobook. Some people are audio learners, and you may learn better from an audiobook than you do from reading, right? So we're different kinds of learners. For me, I do listen to a lot of audiobooks, just sort of to get kind of listen to them more quickly and to give me other opportunities for learning, because I can't always sit down with a book in my hand. So, at night, if I wake up, I will listen to an audio book, ones I borrow from the library or on Audible. And so I don't have to turn on the light and do all that kind of stuff. And I have my tablet in airplane mode, so not connected that way. So I find that really good. But my preferred way of reading is actually having the book in my hand. I underline and make notes. You'll see I got tabs and things like that. So yeah, learning is just amazing. And if you can learn to speed read, I don't have this book on this list, but this is another excellent book. Jim Quick, that's his name, Kwik. He teaches in his book Limitless about how to speed read. And I have found that really helpful. It's definitely, when I'm reading a physical book, it's definitely increased my my reading speed, and so I can read a lot more books. So this year I had set a goal for myself to read 52 books for the year, and so this is 2022. It's week 48 as I'm recording this, and I have read, I think, 44 46 books, 46 books now. So I'm getting close. I might have to do a little bit of crunching at the end. And a lot of them, I must say that audiobooks have really helped me. I don't know if I'll do this experiment again of 52 books, like a book a week, because sometimes I found I've let other stuff go that, like, I like listening to podcasts too, but I'm like, okay, no, I got to get my books in. So I want to get back to listening to some more podcasts because, again, like books, podcast interviews, you've got an expert in there sharing, distilling down what they've learned and in a short period of time. So that's why I love to interview people and have them on my podcast. Okay, so let me see. What else did I want to tell you? So, the reason why I came up with this book list is my membership, which is called Wonderful Fine. And this is a membership to help people that have less pain and inflammation, regain energy, and then just feel more peace and calm in their lives. So I get a lot of people in there that they come to me for pain. They think they've got to like do all these things, like change what they're eating. And I'm more about let's change your way of being. So I teach the principles that are in a lot of these books throughout my Wonderful Fine program. And so they know I'm a voracious reader, and so we were reading, and they wanted to know what I was reading, and then they said, "Can you just give us a list of your books?" So like I said, okay, I'll put together top 10 plus like a plus three, top 10 plus three books, and so I shared it with them, and I thought I'll share it with you as well. All right, so it's hard to narrow down 10 books. Really, I could really put so many books on there, but I tried to pick the ones that have been really transformational for me, and in the hopes that they're also transformational for you as well. So I'm going to start with these books, not in any particular order, and I'm going to explain why I've got the book there on this list. So here we go. Number one is The Energy Codes, the 7-step system to awaken your spirit, heal your body, and live your best life by Dr. Sue Morter. I chose this book because you can see I've got a lot of tabs in here. When I heard Dr. Sue Morter speak on a summit, and then I got the book. And when I read the book, I was like, wow, this really captures so much of my beliefs and what I've learned into one book. And I loved it so much, I became a facilitator to teach the energy codes. And now I weave it all throughout my programs, my offerings, and coming up in January, actually, I'm going to be teaching a 10-week module. So it's there's a lot in this book. There's 7 steps, so there's 7. Yeah, so basically seven codes, energy codes, and then each of those has 3 or 4 practices, and it's really tying together breath work, body work. I would say it's all about coming back into the body. So recognizing that we are spiritual beings, having a spiritual experience in a human body. How do we get closer to connecting with that spiritual side of ourselves and allowing who we are to really come through? So why is that important when it comes to activating healing? Is because when we do that, we create an environment in which the body can heal. So that's what I'm all about. How do we create an environment in which the body can heal? We don't have to like work so hard at it. We can simply let things flow. So that's what this book is about. So I absolutely love this book. You may not have heard of it, but I really love it. And I love Dr. Sue Morter as well. And I actually interviewed her for my Becoming Pain-Free Summit. So you may have heard that. And I encourage you to check her out. So that's my number one. Probably it is number one. Okay, another author that I just love is Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I would say anything by Dr. Joe Dispenza. But the one I chose is the one that he recommends as a starting point, and that's breaking the habit of being yourself. He's also written You Are the Placebo, Supernatural, um, and other titles. So this one, so he talks about Dr. Sue and Dr. Joe Dispenza very much merge science, leading edge science, and ancient spiritual practices, which is what I do. Dr. Joe really delves into the science. So he runs these retreats with thousands of people. He leads them in these guiding meditations where they can let go of all the stories of who they are and then start creating a new version of self from uh, like unencumbered by all the stuff that we're thinking about all the time. So, really freeing the mind. So, breaking the habit of being yourself, how to lose your mind and create a new one. The mind creates the body. Okay, it's part of what creates the body. So this book is just amazing, and I love Dr. Joe Dispenza as well. I heard him speak at a conference I was at earlier this year, and I'm a member of his community. I listen to his monthly a monthly session that he does with his community, and really love everything that he does. Hope to have him on the podcast one day. Same with Dr. Sue. Hope to have her on the podcast one day. We'll see what happens, but he's quite amazing. People have all these spontaneous healings. At these retreats, he has scientists there and he hooks them up. People are hooked up. They take blood samples, they measure brain waves, they measure like all measures of immune system response and so on. So he says demystifies the mystical. So he's showing the science and how these meditations and things that he's doing really help physically change the body. And when we can physically change the when we can, he says, become no, I might get this wrong, but no one, nowhere, no time, no space. When we can kind of get into that nothingness, then we can recreate and then change this physical body. And some people will have instantaneous changes. So quite amazing, right? I love miracles in everyday life, and really miracles are natural. Joe Dispenza. All right. Another book, Louise Hay. If you've been following me, you probably heard me talk about Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. This is an old edition. I first read this book, I would say over 20 years ago, when I was like wandering through the self-help section at the library while my kids were in the kids section being, it's story time. And I think this book might have just like almost fallen off the shelf. And it's it's really incredible. So she talks about how emotions, basically, it's the link between emotions and physical pain in your life. And so I found it fascinating, even things like, and not just pain, but illness, all kinds of illness, even things like, wearing glasses, right? The need to wear glasses is not wanting to see. And, throat problems, like you not speaking your truth, not expressing yourself. Anyway, a whole bunch of things. So in the back, I use this a lot in my coaching. In the back of this book, it's got a whole section on um, different problems, the possible cause, and then new thought patterns. So she's giving you new thought patterns like affirmations to help counter the thought patterns that have created the problem in your physical body. So I love this. And so when I developed rheumatoid arthritis, I actually ordered this book from a used bookstore. It's all taped up now. And of course, I go right to rheumatoid arthritis to see what it says. And for rheumatoid arthritis, I got a tab on that page. Um, the probable cause is deep criticism of authority, feeling very put upon. And this RA came along right after I was having a year of those kinds of feelings. And so it was no surprise to me. So here, just for my audience, if you're listening with rheumatoid arthritis, if you want to hear the thought replacement, then it is, I am my own authority. I love and approve of myself. Life is good. Boy, I needed those reminders. And there's a whole ton of these. So I just love this book. So many people, other people have recommended it, like Bruce Lipton, who I'm going to talk about in a moment. So I can't recommend this book strongly enough. Love it. All right, next up, we have got The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Uh, a guide to spiritual enlightenment. I feel like, so if you've been listening, you know that I was super close to my mother, and she died suddenly in 2015, and it was over that next year, and then basically a year later, that the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis came on. And it was very hard losing my mother. Even now, it's hard for me to even talk about it because she was my best friend and my champion, and we were super close. And she gave me this book. I didn't write the year on it, but I think she gave me this book, I'd say 10 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 6 years before she died. So I had this book and I never read it. And then a few years ago, I thought, ah, I keep hearing about this book by Eckhart Tolle. I should read it. And it's really beautiful. I feel like I told that story about my mom because I just feel like this was a gift from my mom. And it really is. So it's about, of course, getting in the present moment. So a lot of our physical problems come from the thoughts that are going on in our head. Most of our thoughts tend to be ruminating over the past, worrying about the future. Not very often are we spending time in the present moment. And the present moment is where we don't have any of those worries. Generally, I mean, unless you're in a life or death situation, generally, we are totally fine in the present moment. And when we can come into that moment and just let all resistance go, that's where we can heal. So this book is about teaching, first of all, the power of now, but and also how to get there. And he does a really lovely, it's sort of a Q&A. And I also listened to this book again recently on as an audiobook, and I loved it. I think as an audiobook, it's really, really fantastic. And I don't say that about all audiobooks, but this one, he's got someone different, a male voice and a female voice in different chapters asking the questions, and then he answers them. So it's him speaking, and he's got an interesting accent. And I just really love it on as an audiobook, but as a physical book as well. You can see I did tons of underlining. Another thing I love to do is on the inside cover, I will write down pages that really stood out for me, and the topic that was on that page. I also like to write quotes as well. So I only did one in this book, but yeah, maybe he didn't do a lot of quoting. But yeah, or maybe I might write down a quote that he made in this book. There's one that he said in this book that I heard it, and then I did a post about it just because of my cat. But he says, I have lived with several Zen masters, all of them cats, on how to be in the present moment, right? Okay, that's Eckhart Tolle. Next one, Marianne Williamson, A Return to Love, Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles. I don't know how you feel about Marianne Williamson. A lot of people either really like her or they really don't, but I really loved this book because, well, I don't know how much you know about a Course in Miracles, but this was a channeled book, and it's in various volumes, and you can it's available online. Anyone can get it. So it's her reflections on that book. And what I really loved about it was basically the book. And I haven't read A Course in Miracles. I've only read, I've heard it mentioned in many books. Deepak Chopra refers to it. Eckhart Tolle refers to it. Probably some of these other ones as well. I think Michael Singer in The Untethered Soul. But anyway, she talks about principles. It's broken into three parts: principles, practice principles and practice. And I it's a great summary, and I read this one a number of years ago, and it really, thanks to my friend Lynn for telling me about it, it really to me helped me see that the physical problems I was having was a lack of love, a lack of self-love especially. And I had to learn how to love myself. I relied on my mother for that. And when my mother died, I had to say, I have to be my own champion. Love has to come from me. And we are all love. So this is what's talking to return to love. We actually are love, and we block it with our thoughts. We block it with then feelings that come as a result of that. So I love this as a introduction to A Course in Miracles. So there we go. Next, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. This is probably the oldest book. I found this book. This is another, I feel like, gift from my parents. I had a bunch of books, as I mentioned, they were big readers, still on my shelf that I had kept from my mother's house when I had done all the cleaning up, thinking, I'll read them one day. But, you know, I got busy, right? RA came along and blah, blah, blah. And then I was listening to a podcast where I heard someone talking about The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And I thought, okay, I got to get that book. And I had written it down, and then I couldn't find it. And then I was going to buy it, and I couldn't find where I'd written it down. And there was, it was kind of like a common sort of name. I couldn't remember the author. Anyway, so I ended up not buying it. And then I was looking at my shelf one day, and there was the book. And I was like, wow. So I felt like this was another gift from my parents, my mother. There was nothing written in the book. I don't know. The year it was printed, was 1963. So I love this book because he really talks about, obviously, the power of your subconscious mind, but the subconscious mind runs our physical body, right? We don't consciously run our body. We can change some things, right? We can change our breath, and a few other things, but with work, you can actually even change your heartbeat as well, heart rate. But most of our bodily functions are run by our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind has the blueprint of the perfect, healthy version of us. So he talks about in this book how to tap into the power of the subconscious mind. So really, a really great book. I love this. Did a lot of underlining in this. And it's an older book, so it's written in kind of an old fashioned sort of style, but I guess it was a great book in its day, because it says on this cover more than 1 million copies in print, one of the most powerful self-help guides ever written. So I think it's definitely worth reading. Okay, next, The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. Lots of tabs in this one. So it's called this, it's just called The Seat of the Soul. Love this book. This was another gift from my mother that I had for years that I didn't read until later. So almost makes me weep thinking about these gifts that she gave me that I didn't read at the time, because I was a busy mom with kids, and so I wasn't reading as much then, maybe a book a month, and I was in a book club, so I had to do my book club book every month. But I love this book. I love this book. He's also got some great resources. Most authors have great resources online to go with their books as well. Anyway, he talks about karma, and so the sections are introduction, creation, responsibility, power. And again, it's just another book in helping you understand karma, understand ourselves from a soul level, and what we're experiencing on this life as being in this life experience as being for the development and growth of our soul. I have a timer going here so I can keep track of how long I'm taking. All right. This might be longer than a 30-minute podcast. Next one, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I find a lot of these books are they're saying the same thing but in a different way. So the sections in this book: awakening consciousness, experiencing energy because we are energy, freeing yourself, going beyond, and living life. And it's a lovely book with a about, again, self love, letting go of all of these. Well, the untethered soul, letting go. It says that the journey, the subtitle is The Journey Beyond Yourself, letting go of all these issues and coming back into, again, who you really are, who you came here to be, and how to open yourself up to that. And honestly, like, what does this got to do with illness or pain in the body? Everything. Everything, because pain is like the caboose on a train. It's the last thing that shows up. So there's other things we can work on further up, and then the caboose will follow, and we can create healing in our body. Lovely book. He's also got a companion book, which I have, called Living Untethered. And again, great resources online. Next, I would say maybe anything by Deepak Chopra, but I picked this one, The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire. And I chose this one because it says harnessing the infinite power of coincidence. I really loved this book. Again, this was from my mother's house. And someone, I guess one of my siblings, gave it to my mother. It says, to Pam from Santa, Christmas 2003. Again, it was another kind of gift. It's not specifically about healing, but about tapping into your infinite power. And of course, you can use that infinite power for pretty much anything. And I kind of keep this as reading in my little sanctuary where I do my morning journaling and reading, because he's got like a little system, kind of, I think, is it 10 days? Um, anyway, can't remember. You do like a little cycle of, I can't find the pages now, of sutras. Seven, of course, 7 days a week, 7 sutra principles. And so he goes through these principles, and you go through them on a 7-day cycle. So I'm not doing it all the time, but I might, like, okay, for 1 month, I'm going to do these 7 cycles. And it does really get you thinking, being very conscious, opening yourself up to more like coincidences, spontaneous things happening, because there are no coincidences. But and also he talks in here about what's the word, let me see if he mentions it here. I'm trying to think of, like, uh kind of representations of who you might be. So if you think about who, like, at a soul level, who am I? What might it be? So archetypes, that's what I'm trying to think of, the word archetypes. So how do you see yourself? And he suggests picking 2 or 3 archetypes and reminding yourself that is the energy of that archetype that I'm bringing into this life. And when you read through them, you will know what archetypes resonate with you. So really, really love that. Okay. Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. This is a book that was very life-changing for me. I read it. I guess I must have heard about him. I bought it in March 2018. I must have heard him on a summit or something like that. And so he was a cell biologist, and he learned through his research, and he taught in major medical programs, and he was teaching about cell biology, and he realized in his research that cells do not function and reproduce based on their the DNA. They actually respond to the environment, and the environment includes vibrations and feelings. So basically, our thoughts, which create feelings, which create vibrations in the body, our cells, the membrane of the cells has like little antenna that pick up on that, and they send the signals down into into the cell to say, okay, it's a safe environment, it's not a safe environment, and so they reproduce accordingly. So really, some people may find it a little heavy on the science, but it's really, really good. I thought I bought this on audio, but when I on Audible, the what I bought, which was called The Biology of Belief, was actually Dr. Bruce Lipton speaking about the biology of belief in a 2 or 3 hour lecture. So really interesting to hear that if you want it kind of summed up a little bit more instead of reading the entire book. But fantastic book. I love Bruce Lipton. I interviewed him on my podcast, so I'll link that in the show notes. The episode, you can go back and listen to it. He's just absolutely lovely, world renowned and loved, and really the subtitle of this book kind of says it all: Unleashing the Power of Consciousness, Matter, and Miracles. Don't you want more miracles in your life? Okay, this one, The Body Keeps the Score: Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma, by Bessel van der Kolk, MD. Such a great book for understanding how our physical biology hangs on to trauma. And he's a psychiatrist, and he worked with people who have been victims of sexual abuse, and also people with post-traumatic stress disorder. So he worked with some really severe cases, and he could see that there were actual physical changes in the brain as a result of trauma, and then that also created physical changes in the body. Really great read. And he goes through some different practices as well that people could look into further. And if you think about it, we've all had trauma on some level, right? Some people have had the uppercase trauma, which is, you know, the really severe cases, and my heart goes out to anyone who's experienced that. But we've all had trauma on some level. When we were little kids, our little brain interprets things anytime we feel like we're not safe. Our brain interprets that as a traumatic event. And so we've all had this can be called little t trauma as opposed to big T trauma. So we've all had trauma on some level. And so it stores in the body. And that was part of my journey, was realizing that I had had some experiences as a child that had led to trauma, which led to behavioral adaptations, then perfectionism, people pleasing, uh, that was how I adapted and coped with that trauma. Like, I'm not doing this consciously, right? This is all subconscious. And so I've had to work through those subconscious beliefs. I don't have to go into the past and go over it. In fact, one of the things that I learned in this book, he said that doesn't work. In fact, sometimes just going over and talking about the trauma makes it worse, because we're activating the emotions again, and any severe emotions really keep like making those wires stronger in the neuron wires in our brain stronger. So we want to break them, we want to make them weaker, so that it's not it doesn't keep firing in that way. So I've had to do a lot of work myself in that. So this book was really helpful. I'd love to interview him one day as well. Seems like a very kind soul. All right. Molecules of Emotion by Candace B. Pert. Forward by Deepak Chopra. The Science Behind Mind-Body Medicine. Love this book. I bought this in April 2019. Published in 1997. So she was a scientist. She was the first scientist who made the connection between, I've forgotten now exactly what it was. But anyway, breakthrough scientists on how the brain creates the chemistry to respond to certain things. So she found in her research that our biology responds to our emotions. So it's why it's called molecules of emotion. And then why mind body medicine works. So really very, very interesting read. So I find I love talking about the science books because a lot of people think mind body medicine is just like woo woo. I love presenting and sharing with you science behind this. So for example, this book, The Science Behind Mind Body Medicine, uh, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, his book, Bruce Lipton's book. Um, uh, what's the other one? Oh, the Joe Dispenza stuff, all about the science. So here's the science behind why or how emotions get stored in the body, how our molecules, our cells are responding, and then what to do about it, how to change it. Okay, so that was my top 10. I also want to offer three more. So my three other books are. So the reason why I'm adding these three books is that most of these ones are about the mind body connection, which I believe is absolutely everything. And it doesn't really matter what else you're doing if you're not getting this mind body connection, getting into the body, feeling your emotions, where you're holding them, and doing the release on that, looking at the subconscious mind and doing the release of stored programming, then really you're going to keep going around in circles. And that's what I found. I would plateau, right? I was doing all the physical things, but not really addressing these subconscious things, the where I was holding emotions in my body. So that has to be done. But I recognize that a lot of people feel like they want to start with something really physical. And that's where I started too. So probably one of the first books I read, the best one, I guess, in my early days. So I actually, my friend Joyce gave me this book. So I'm forever thankful to Joyce for introducing me to this. The Autoimmune Solution: Prevent and Reverse the Full Spectrum of Inflammatory Symptoms and Diseases by Dr. Amy Meyer. She's a medical doctor who practices functional medicine. So this is a great book. She does talk about stress in here a little bit, but it's a really great book in terms of like the physical stuff. So foods, toxins, stress, and and things like bacterial overgrowths, gut dysbiosis. So she really explains a lot of that really well. She's got recommendations on a food plan and some recipes, and also supplements and things like that. So I found it is a really, really great book for understanding all that physical. And but honestly, like the as I said, that's the caboose. But sometimes if we've got that fire and we got immediate pain, then it helps to do something physical, but also work on the other stuff, work on the mindset as well. Okay, but this is a great book, and I really like her practical approach, and it's a very easy read, and you'll understand because we do have this physical body, and we need to treat it well. We need to give it foods that are going to support and nurture us. We need to not expose ourselves to toxins and things like EMFs that are interfering with who we should be here. And supplements can help for sure because our world is, for magnesium, for example, we're not getting the magnesium that we need for all hundreds of chemical reactions in our body just because the farming practices, especially in North America, have depleted the soil of magnesium. So, there is that as well. So we do have a physical body that we need to pay attention to. But as Dr. Sue says in her books, like, our thoughts are way, way, way more powerful. So if we can create a healing vibration in our body with our thoughts and clearing out that negative subconscious programming, tuning into our body, then our body can heal, right? So if we aren't doing all that, but and we are eating the very best foods possible, then it's still not going to take us to where we want to go. So that's one of my bonus ones. Another one of my bonus ones is Essentialism by Greg McEwen. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. So this is all about like letting go of some things in your life. And I really like this one because especially as a perfectionist and people pleaser, which I see that over and over and over again in the people that I work with, the people in my membership, that we are suffering from trying to do too much. And so I love the way this book really talks about simplifying life, how to say no, how to make uh, quick decisions, right? Instead of like ruminating which way, what way. It's a really great book that way. So I really love this book. It's not specifically on health, but it's your health will be affected by it when you put into practice this one. Now, another one this one I only have on Audible, and that's Atomic Habits by an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones by James Clear. So I only have this one on Audible, um, but it's such a great book because overcoming habits, again, habits are in our subconscious mind. So this is a tool to help you get your subconscious mind working for you. So he teaches you how to how like what makes you, first of all, understanding habits, the triggers for habits, and then how to now that you understand the triggers for these habits, how to make triggers work for you so that you can break the bad habits and create good ones. So there you go, my friends. That's my top 10 plus 3 books. I'd love to know what books you would recommend. And I'll probably do this again another year or so because I'm reading new books all the time. And so I might have some more books to add to share with you. But I really encourage you to read and learn because we've got so many fabulous resources that are just right there at your fingertips for you to help empower you in your health. All right. So I always talk about one thing you can do today to help empower you in your health. And I'm going to just share with you, let's just take a few moments to breathe. So put your hands on your heart right now. Close your eyes if you're not driving or doing something essential where you need vision. Notice your breath. Think of something lovely, something that brings you joy, something that makes you happy. A time when you felt some love, whatever it is. Let's bring up a really good feeling right now. And breathe that into your heart. Notice what this feeling feels like. And as you breathe, with each breath, let that feeling expand. Imagine with each breath, it's like a balloon. It's expanding and expanding, expanding, filling up your body, getting bigger than your body. Bring it back into your body again and into your heart and memorize this. What does it feel like? Teach your body what this feels like. Have you got it? Whenever you've got it, you can open your eyes really slowly and gently. And now I'd love for you to remember this feeling. Be able to turn it on like that. Whenever you want it, you can direct your mind to come into the body and feel that feeling. So do this, my friend. This changes everything. The heart is an incredibly healing instrument, and it's a healing vibration when we can really turn that on, and that, my friend, can help you heal. Try to do that whenever you think about it. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Wellness by Design. And if you know anyone who needs to hear this, please share this with them. And also, I'd love for you to leave a review. Let me know what you thought. And also, I'd love to know any other books that you recommend. All right, have a most wonderful, fine day. Bye for now.